Welcome back to the TNT show. Rankings dropped on Tuesday, so we're coming at you with a fresh episode of our reaction to the rankings that just dropped. Obviously, some movement with teams losing like Ohio State and Miami, so we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it.
Yeah, I mean there are, there is some controversy here. Obviously, you know, it's people are saying the SEC's biased, but it
Well, we'll just we don't want to jump into the best part. Let's
okay.
save that for the end. Uh,
All right, so yeah, let's all right, we'll save that for the end. So obviously the first four
yeah.
is still the same. Oregon, Boise, SMU, and Texas. So as of right now, those teams are locked in for the bye. Obviously that's probably gonna change. That could change for some of these teams. Um, and then we got
Well, the only difference from last week to this week is SMU sliding at the 3 spot because Miami lost,
yeah, Miami got beat. Yeah.
and then Miami getting booted out. Which again, we'll get to that towards the end because they're a part of the whole controversial,
So
spot and
as of
whatnot.
right now, if it started right now, Arizona would play Penn State, Tennessee would play Ohio State, Alabama would play Notre Dame, and Indiana would play Georgia.
Okay, so if it started right now, the only issue that I have is that Ohio State would get to host Tennessee and not the other way around because that's how I predicted the bracket where Tennessee was going to host Ohio State instead of Ohio State hosting Tennessee, which that part I don't really get. I don't know. Maybe it's just uh, head to head or not head to head, a win loss or something like that. There's a reason why they put Ohio State at 8 and not Tennessee. I don't know.
Yeah, that one is a little weird. I don't To be honest with you, I really don't think it's gonna matter. I think Tennessee offensively is gonna struggle a little bit. But like you said, Tennessee's got a really good defense. Now this is just based on them playing if they was to play tomorrow. This is not set in
The final.
stone. Obviously this is not the final bracket. We're talking if they was to play right now, tomorrow, Saturday. I think Tennessee's going to struggle offensively no matter who they play. Um, they just have all year for the most part. They
Yeah,
just
they
start
come
off
out.
kind of slow.
Yeah, they come out pretty slow, and it's the defense that really just keeps them in the game until they can, you know, find their footing offensively and then start to make the big plays that you've been used to seeing them do in like the second. They're a second half team. They're a second half team. They start out slow. Sometimes they get it together in that first half, and they kind of not really miss a beat through the rest of the game. But sometimes, like a few of their games this season, they were definitely a second half team. So that's something you want to avoid against a team like if they were to play like an Ohio State or a
Well, their
Georgia
defense
again.
is really good. So
Yeah.
based off what I've seen from Ohio State against Michigan, I don't know what happened in that game. They just looked terrible. And Michigan's not a very good team.
They just have a very, very good defense, which
It's
Tennessee has a very, very
that's a
good
big
defense.
rivalry too. So it's like every other rivalry. It's a tough game no matter how good or nor bad the other team is.
That's true. That's true. I mean, you could chalk it up to that, but I mean, that's a game that Ohio State really was more favored because I mean they have a $20 million roster. I mean, you got some of the best players in the country on your team, so y'all should have been able to make a difference in that game.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because I mean they got beat by a third string walk on quarterback with the out there two best players on the team. I would probably lean Ohio State to be honest,
No.
just because of the sluggish Tennessee starts. I mean, Tennessee would probably they would just have to hang in there. They couldn't let Ohio State jump on them because although Ohio State did get beat, their defense is still pretty good.
Yeah, Tennessee's defense is still pretty good too, though. Tennessee's defense is the reason why they were able to stay in a lot of their games and win a lot of their games. So,
Nah, Dylan
and you got to think,
Sampson's the reason
well,
they're winning games.
that too, but you got to think Tennessee has a great defense and their offense is 5 times better than Michigan's. So I would give them more of a chance to beat Ohio State
Yeah,
than I would have
Michigan
given
did run it
Michigan.
down their throat, didn't they?
And Michigan did it. So I mean that it's tough.
This is a big game for Ryan Day.
Whoever he plays, he's gonna have to make it out the first round. He'll have to.
I'm not guess like we talked about. I don't think he's going to get fired, but they could. I've seen crazier things happen.
So based on what this bracket looks like right now and how conference championship week goes, do you think there's still a lot more shifting they're gonna do before that final bracket comes out? Or do you think it's still like you think it's just
Yeah,
minimal movement?
because well, one way or another, somebody's going to lose it. Because you got to think, a lot of these matchups got to play each other. Penn
Yeah,
State has to
Indiana.
play. Penn State has to play Oregon.
Is it Penn
Indiana's
State or is it
fine.
Indiana?
It's Penn State.
How does that work? Because didn't they both lose to Ohio State?
Is it Indiana? Am I
I
wrong?
don't I don't know. It could be either one. I really don't know.
I
But
thought.
I
Hold
know
on. Let me check. Go ahead and say what you're going to say, and I'll look at that.
well both of them lost to Ohio State. So one of them has to go to the conference championship, but I just don't know who it is because they both only
I'm
have
looking.
one loss on the season and both losses came to Ohio State.
It's Penn State. It's Penn State.
Yeah, but see how does that is it because Penn State had a closer game with Ohio State? I would assume that's what it
Yes,
was because Indiana got blown out.
I
So
guess. I
yeah, Penn
really
State plays Oregon, Texas plays Georgia, SMU plays Clemson, who is not in the bracket right now, and then Boise State plays UNLV in their conference championship.
correct.
Notre Dame doesn't have a conference championship because they're independent.
So yeah, I would assume that that's probably why, because they beat Indiana 38-15, and they beat Penn State 20-13. So yeah, I would assume so. I would assume. Oh, that's Ohio State.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't. I don't. I don't know. Penn State's ranked higher. That could be a lot to do with it too.
I don't know. I think this final bracket, I think the final bracket is going to be completely different from what this one looks like because I
Oh
think
yeah, for sure.
conference championship we could get a little crazy. I mean, Georgia gets a rematch against Texas. They
Yeah,
beat them the
you
first
said
time. Can they
yeah,
do it
beat them the
again?
first time.
SMU looks to prove its dominance in its first year in the ACC by winning the whole thing. Can they beat out Clemson?
I think so. Um, Obviously, like we said, Penn State plays Oregon, so one way or another, one of them's losing. Texas, Georgia play, one of them's losing. Arizona State's playing Iowa State, so one of them's going to make it. Whoever it is will be at the 12.
So do you think like let's say Penn State loses in the conference championship, are they another 2 loss team that doesn't get to go to the playoff, or do they still go?
I think you still. I don't know. I think that
See,
you could make a case for them going because
two top 5 teams.
they lost to two top five teams. So yeah, I think that they'd still go, but that's not going to change the way the bracket lines up, though. Not for real. They might fall in the rankings, yes. They'll fall in a different, like, they won't play
Arizona State because they
Arizona
won't be a
State. They might fall to, they might swap, say, so for instance, they would probably swap spots with Ohio State or Tennessee. And Tennessee would play the number 12 team and be a host there.
yeah.
So Ohio State realistically may get another game against Penn State, to be honest. And we both know what's going to happen in that.
Yeah, it's really interesting from the standpoint of you could
Or
see
they or
some
they could fall to the yeah. I mean, yeah. It'll definitely shake up some stuff because everybody in here is playing for something. To be honest,
yeah. I mean, you could
except
potentially
for
see.
Indiana's fine. They're locked in. They're not going to move.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, obviously, they don't play anybody. They're going to be fine. They're not going to
You
move.
could
But
you could you could potentially see a lot of, well, not a lot, but a few of these teams play maybe like three times. So like if let's say Georgia, wins or loses the SEC championship and somehow they still get in, right? And they somehow land in the same part of the bracket as Texas. That'll be three times that they play this season. Same thing
yeah,
for like Ohio State, Oregon. If Ohio State stays where they are and they don't move out of that bracket where Oregon is, they could face Oregon like a second time.
yeah.
So I think that's pretty interesting.
I mean, if Penn State loses again, they might catch Ohio State for a third time, depending on where they fall.
Yeah, but who would really want to see that though? I don't think that game will be competitive. I think it'd be the same way it went the first time.
Yeah. Do you think so? The way the bracket sits, do you think that Penn State would beat Arizona State if they was to play Saturday?
Yeah, no, I think like the word that you like to use, they're a much more physical football team. So
I
I
think
don't
so
think
too. I
I
don't
don't
think
think
that
Arizona State could play four quarters with Penn State.
you think they'd just be too physical for them.
Yeah, I think at some point they probably be gassed. Offense probably wouldn't be able to move the ball enough because while Penn State did lose to Ohio State, their defense still played pretty good. It's not like they just got
Yeah,
overwhelmed by any means by Ohio State.
they only
Their
gave
offense
up
just couldn't
20.
do it.
Yeah, they just
Yeah,
couldn't get
so
anything done.
you got to think Arizona State comes from a conference that doesn't play defense, so they're used to scoring a lot of points. Can
Do
you?
you go ahead?
I was gonna say, can they grind out like 20 points and win a game? I don't
I
think
don't
that's
know.
doable for them.
I don't know because, like you said, they don't play defense in the Pac-12, so I don't know that. Although they would probably score, because I think Arizona State, I think they're pretty good. I
Yeah,
think they got a pretty good run game. I could be wrong. I really don't really know.
yeah.
Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. They beat Utah. They beat Kansas State. They beat BYU. And they clobbered Arizona. Oh yeah, their running back's pretty good. They got I think his name's Skatebo,
Oh
whatever his name
yeah.
is.
However you say his name, I'm not going to attempt to say it.
Yeah, whatever his name is, yeah, he's pretty good. I mean, this man's rushed for 1,400 yards. So that's pretty good. They got over 1,000 yard receiver, 1,100 yard receiver. Their quarterbacks, he's okay. It looks like he's thrown 21 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, so that's not too bad. So yeah, they might be able to hang in there with them. They'd probably definitely try to run the ball with Cam Skatebo. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but first name's Cam. I know that for sure. So do you think Indiana would beat Georgia
Do I think Indiana would be Georgia? No,
again?
maybe, strong maybe, possibility. I'm not going to
I don't
completely
I
rule
don't
them
think
out.
so.
I wouldn't completely rule them out because
I think it would be the same outcome as Ohio State. And I don't like to use this term, but I think Georgia would be just I think they'd just be too physical for them. Exactly like Ohio State did. I think Georgia's defense would overwhelm Indiana and force them into mistakes because Kirby Smart is a really good coach and he's going to throw everything at whoever he plays. They don't, and one thing I'll say about Georgia is they get down, but you don't see it like in Kirby Smart's face. Somehow he figures out a way to just corral his team back.
yeah,
I just think Georgia might be a little bit too much for Indiana. I think it would be more of can they go 4 quarters with Georgia? I think their defense could. I just offensively, I don't. They struggled to move the ball on Ohio State. which although they had they had some circumstances with the special team score, and then they kind of got their stuff in a hole, and they really weren't doing anything offensively. And they definitely can't do that against Georgia, or Georgia will beat them 45-10.
Yeah, that'd be a
Now,
pretty
do you think?
lopsided.
I know what you're gonna say, but do you think Alabama would beat Notre Dame?
Now you know my answer to that, and you know exactly why my answer would be the answer that I would give. So
I know what you're gonna go ahead and say it. I know what you're gonna say.
biased,
They're gonna blow out
biased,
Notre Dame.
biased answer or unbiased answer, I think Notre Dame would get blowed out. And I'm just gonna be completely honest because they just the competition level is different. Their one loss came to a group of five, Northern Illinois, and every
Okay.
other game they won by like a lot, except for Texas A&M, which I'll give you that. That's a tough opponent you had to play. Texas A&M is not a bad football team, but I mean your ranked wins that they're accounted for is Army, Navy,
Navy, Louisville.
Louisville, and then that Texas A&M team. So I don't know about you, but I mean, if you go and look at their entire schedule, it just doesn't look the part of a team that's ready to go and, battle in the trenches for a championship. Where's the adversity? Like they didn't have any tough games besides the first game of the season and that loss to NIU, which was both of those were early on. Every other game they played was against, in my opinion, weak competition. Bama's lost to unranked Oklahoma, now
Tennessee.
unranked Vandy, Tennessee, who was a playoff team, and that's their three losses. And I take that over a one loss NIU Notre Dame team.
So here's the reason why I would pick Notre Dame. I'm not saying I am picking Notre Dame, but here's the reason why I would pick Notre Dame. Go look at the three losses Alabama had. Now I just want you to listen. So
I'm hearing
Notre
you.
Dame has a mobile quarterback and a pretty good run game. Now, yes, the competition is not the same, but against a mobile quarterback this year, for some reason, or a solid run game, I think Alabama might struggle.
I don't think so.
Look at what Jackson Arnold did to them. And
Yeah,
now, granted, like you said, Notre Dame hasn't played a team the caliber of Alabama. Yes, they played Texas A&M, but that was the first game of the year. So you gotta take that with a grain of salt because Marcel Reed didn't play in that game. Connor Wingman did.
exactly.
That's a different Texas A&M team than it was, 14 weeks ago. So
All I got to say is the biggest point that I'm trying to make, and I get it was at the beginning of the season, they struggled offensively against Northern Illinois.
yeah,
Then now don't get me wrong, they beat everybody else, but I mean the point still stands. Are they passing the
yeah,
eye test as far as are they really that good? To me,
we
no, because they haven't played anybody.
I'm picking if they played, I'd pick Notre Dame just
Are you
because
saying
they're
that?
gonna.
Are you saying that out of bias? Or are you saying that just because you don't like Alabama?
No, I'm saying that out of bias. Like that's my non. And the reason I say that is I think Notre Dame would just run it down Alabama's throat. To be
And
honest, they haven't.
you're really telling me, in all
I swear.
honesty,
I
there's
honestly, I think
absolutely no way.
I don't think Alabama would. I think Notre Dame would probably just run it down. Now, I think it'd be like honestly, I think it would kind of be like it'd either be kind of like the South Carolina game or the Vandy game. Either y'all couldn't stop them, or Notre Dame would have to make a mistake.
I think it would probably be like how it is every season when Notre Dame plays a schedule that's not
Now,
super tough.
yes, now, yes, it's that part right there. You took the words right out of my mouth. Now, what Notre Dame are we going to see? Because they do every time they get into this spotlight, every time they're right here, everybody knows what happens. I don't know if have they ever won a close game in the playoff? Has it ever been close? I know when
Every
Alabama
time,
played them in the national championship, they beat the brakes off of them.
every time they've played Alabama in a championship or the playoffs, they got blowed out every time. Now, one of them wasn't really a blowout, but Notre Dame couldn't really move the ball at all, if any, really, in all honesty.
But I don't know. I've Notre Dame's got a strong run game, and from what I've seen from Alabama, I feel like if they could stop the run, I think that if they could stop Notre Dame from just running it all over them,
Yeah, but we're
yeah, I
talking
think I
about
think
we're talking
Alabama
about
would just be too physical for them.
we're talking about SEC teams versus Notre Dame. Though you got to think the guys that Alabama was struggling against are teams that are battling out every single week. Notre Dame is just they're chilling every week. They're blowing teams out by like 30, 40 points. I mean, they're not having to battle against any type of adversity. So as far as they're concerned, that it's good for them to think that they're really that good. But to me, I don't really think they're that great if I haven't seen them play anybody that's worth talking about.
Yeah, but you can make the same case for Indiana though, because the one team that they played that was actually good, they
No,
actually they
you
got
look,
beat.
you took the words right out of my mouth. Indiana's another one of those teams, just like Miami. Which, since we're on the subject, let's just go ahead and get into it. Do you think that Miami deserves to be in the playoffs over Alabama at number 11?
No,
Why?
and I don't like Alabama. Well, one, their defense is god awful. It's the optics. Yes, I get like okay. I know Alabama got beat by Oklahoma. They got blow out. They only scored 3 points. But Oklahoma has a pretty good defense, and they showed that.
Yeah,
Miami just every time they just if I'm gonna relate it to this. If they okay, you put Miami against Georgia, you know what would happen? They would get beat just like TCU did. Georgia would ragdoll them. It wouldn't even be close. If they played Alabama, it wouldn't even be close. They're going to score, yes. Are they going to score more than 3 points? Yes. Their offense is way too electric, but they might as well not even put a defense on the field. When they score, they might as well just give the other team 6 points. Their defense is just terrible.
yeah, but I mean, at the same time, too, their offense is so
I
explosive
think the
that
way you look at it, look at these matchups. We got Tennessee, Ohio State, Penn State, Arizona State, Notre Dame, Alabama, Indiana, and Georgia. Could Miami beat any of those? And I think they might be able to beat one of them, and that's Arizona State because it'd be a shootout.
I think they have a shootout with Indiana too, though. But okay, look, I'm gonna
Maybe.
give Miami some credit. Another reason, which their defense is already bad, yes, but another reason that their defense a lot of times is gassed is because when they've come off the field, Miami's going out there and throwing or running for a big play touchdown or something. So they're coming right back on the field.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. I mean, you kind of, yeah. I mean, it's tough to say is your defense bad or is it your offense is just so electric that they're scoring in 3 plays
I think it's
and your
both.
defense has got to go right back on the field. I've seen it. I've seen it. I've kind of seen it firsthand. I don't want to touch on it because I don't want to be biased. I'll let
Now
you
I'm gonna
say it
go
if
ahead
you
and
want
say
to.
it. Carbon copy at LSU last year. Super explosive offense, but the offense is so explosive that the defense is already bad enough. They're already gassed because they have to keep coming back on the field. And in certain situations, when your offense is not clicking and you're not able to convert, your defense is having to come right back out there. And they're tired.
Yeah,
They're gassed already.
it's hard to stop teams.
Yeah, it's already hard for your defense to get stops, and you're asking them to do it when your offense isn't clicking. That's not a recipe for a W.
Yeah, and I think another thing is you got to look at is like I just said, look at the teams in here. Could they beat any of them? And honestly, The only one I'd give a shot would be Arizona State because they don't play defense. So that game would probably be a shootout. There's no chance they'd beat Tennessee. Tennessee's defense is way too good.
I'd
Ohio
probably say
State,
I'm gonna give
same
you
thing.
three.
Go
Uh,
ahead.
the three I'd probably say would be and you might feel some type of way when I say this, but Notre Dame's one of them. My point still stands. I'm sorry. Uh, Indiana's another one because they fall right in there in that little Notre Dame area this year, and of course Arizona State because that'd be a shootout because they play in a conference that's known for not playing defense.
Yeah, the only problem is their defense. All these teams are going to score. They honestly, they're just going to have to out. The problem with Miami is when they make a mistake offensively, they're kind of that hurts them way too much. They just can't afford to make mistakes or they're going to get beat. Now, do I think that Alabama should be in their spot? That's a tough call because, Alabama does have three losses, Miami has two. But it's the
Yeah.
fact that, do you, I said it, I said it earlier, I said it a couple of days ago when we were off the pod. It's money. Would you rather watch Notre Dame play Alabama or Miami? And the answer is obvious. It's Alabama football. It's who doesn't. Alabama, of course, is going to travel to Notre Dame. Miami, probably not. Not as many fans as Alabama's going to have. It's just a money thing, and that's sad to say. And you hate to see that because the whole reason for this expansion was so other teams can have a chance. But people can say what they want to, and it's SEC football. It is what it is. They said it at the
Well,
beginning of the year that there were going to be 4 or 5 SEC teams in here, and it's hard to not put an SEC team in here because they play each other every week. It's hard to say, well, is Miami better than Alabama? Well, I don't know. Alabama's played Tennessee, they played Georgia. I mean, they played two of the first of the playoff teams. Miami played one person that's bowl eligible, and that's it.
and they lost.
And that's what you got to look at. And they lost to Syracuse. Well, no, they played Georgia Tech, so they played two teams. Their two losses came to the best teams that they played all year long, and they lost both times.
Is Georgia Tech bowl eligible?
Man,
Well,
I don't.
I don't want to stray too far off topic, but like I was telling you before the season started, even when it expanded to 12 teams, like the playoff did, there was still going to be a lot of controversy, a lot of speculation on who should
Yeah,
be
Georgia
in,
Tech is
who guys.
7-5.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, like I said, still going to be a lot of speculation, controversy, and all those good things about what
Do you
teams.
think? Do you think Alabama should be in here? You're an Alabama fan. Do you think they should be here?
When I first saw it, I didn't think so, just because of, I mean, the resume. But when I read that article, or when the committee released the article about why they put them in there, and they put like the actual wins, losses, and all that good stuff, like resume wise, strength of schedule, all that stuff up there for Miami and Alabama, it made sense. The only difference is one loss between the two. But if you look at the biggest thing, which is, bowl eligible teams, Bama's 6-1. And that you got to remember that most of those are SEC teams. So that's 6-1 against SEC teams versus
Yeah.
0-1 bowl eligible teams. Out of all the teams that they played, they only had one team that was bowl eligible, and they lost to them. So
Yeah, that's true. But I think, like we talked about earlier, there's the teams that are outside looking in, aside from Miami, can make a strong case. South Carolina, the reason they're not in here, Alabama beat them. It's
yep.
it's their it's not as much as the losses. Alabama beat South Carolina, but I don't know how Ole Miss got snubbed. That's the one that I was a little, I'm a little on the fence on. They can make an argument
Yeah,
because their losses are just as good or bad or however you want to put it as Alabama's. Yes, they lost to Florida, but Florida's just as good as
I think it's because well, no, I mean their losses came at about the same time. Alabama lost again last game of the season. Ole Miss lost the
yeah.
last game of the season.
Yeah,
They
it's
both
kind of in
lost.
the same. They were within a week of each other,
Yeah, they lost to who was it? They lost to
but
LSU right around the time that.
I guess you argue it's the Kentucky loss.
I mean, yeah, because
That's
Kentucky
the only thing
sucks.
that makes sense. That's the only thing that makes sense because yes, they lost to LSU, but LSU finished the year at 8-4.
Yeah, Kentucky's the
But
worst loss on that schedule.
it's the Kentucky game, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, because Bama's worst loss, that team still finished what,
Six and
six and
six.
six.
Everybody's 500.
So, I mean,
Oklahoma's 6-6, and Vandy is 6-6.
but I mean, it's fair. You can make it. You can make a case. You can.
But yeah, I don't know. They're on the outside looking in. Maybe they squeeze in. Maybe say I think it would have to be utter chaos. I think if Clemson beats SMU, that's gonna push somebody out because obviously you cannot snub SMU.
Or if Clemson beats SMU, then I think SMU gets bumped all the way down, and then Bama gets knocked out of the playoff. So Bama fans are more than likely rooting for SMU to finish the job and win the ACC, so they can get the playoff.
Or say UNLV beats Boise. They struggled the first time. They barely beat them. They got to play them again.
Do you think Boise's out?
No, no. I think that would be chaos because then UNLV gets to go to the playoffs because they won the conference. Right? Right? I'm right.
Yeah,
Correct.
but I mean, you could argue though that Boise they really haven't played a whole lot of competition. They struggled in some of their games. So I don't
It
know.
would depend on how they lost.
If they put 10-2 Miami out, then you'd have to put a 10-2 Boise out if they weren't able to win the conference.
Yeah, you could argue that, yeah. But say Texas beats Georgia. Do you keep Georgia in here?
Well, like I told you, I'm a Bama fan. You want a 9-3 Georgia over a 9-3 Alabama because their resume is far better. They beat two of the playoff teams that are in the playoffs right now. Alabama did.
Yeah. They already beat Texas once. And
Exactly.
they beat Tennessee.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean it could be chaos if there's some upsets, like say Georgia beats Texas. Or Texas beats Georgia. Let's say Texas beats Georgia. Let's just say it's utter chaos. Let's run through this for a second. Let's say it's utter chaos. Penn State beats Oregon. I don't think that's going to matter. Let's say Texas beats Georgia. Clemson beats SMU. UNLV beats Boise. Obviously Tennessee's fine. Ohio State's fine. Um, the Big 12 doesn't matter. The winner of that goes regardless. Um, yeah, if that happens, obviously Indiana's fine.
The
Notre Dame's
bracket would
fine. They're
be
not going
insane.
anywhere. Yeah, because I mean, you got to think it's the winner of that. I think that's the cool thing. That's one thing I like about this. You could be UNLV has a shot to make it to the playoffs. All they got to do is win the conference.
Now, I will say this: every conference isn't going to make it if they win the conference championship. You have to be like ranked high enough to make it in at like a 12 or
So if
whatever.
UNLV beats Boise, they just let Boise go,
I
even though they
mean,
lost the conference.
I think so because Miami's sitting out there at 10-2, and they're not in there. So why would you put Boise in there? Where's
So
the resume?
there just won't be a Mountain West in there.
No, it wouldn't.
Interesting. I didn't think of it like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the only Mountain West team that would be in there would be UNLV because they'd be ranked high enough to where they probably end up being somewhere around like 12 because you got to think the bracket's going to shift and Arizona State or Iowa State is going to end up higher. It really depends on where you fall in the rankings, honestly. So if UNLV wins, since they're already ranked right now, they're going to move up, of course, because you just beat like a top 10 team. So it really depends on where you get ranked is where you get seated. So that's one of those things where we can't really speculate it right now. It's one of those we got to wait and see kind of things.
Yeah. This weekend could be utter chaos. Uh, Honestly, Georgia kind of got the short end of the stick because I think if they get beat, they might not make it. I don't know.
That one's one of those flip of a coin kind of things. But you already heard my argument on that, and I'm a Bama fan. I think they could get in over Bama.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be tough. I think I think them putting Alabama in is causing controversy, but I don't think they're gonna make it. I think they just put them in there to just to do it because I think it looked a little bit. I think they just done it to do it, just to stir up people. To be honest,
I
you
mean,
couldn't put Miami in there, and the next best option was Alabama. To be
yeah,
honest, that was just the next best option. But yeah,
that's
if like you said, if Georgia gets beat, they already beat Texas once, so it's hard to beat somebody twice. And they didn't just play Texas, but it has been a little bit. But it's still hard to beat somebody twice, no matter how you slice it. Trust me, I know.
yeah. But Georgia's been there, so they're
Yeah, I'm
experienced.
curious to see how Texas handles this because they choked last year in the playoffs. They got beat by Washington, and then
Their
uh,
their
they got
defense is a lot better this
yeah, their
season than
defense is
last.
obviously a lot better. You know, they definitely beefed up for the SEC competition. So I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it'll quite be like it was the first time. Georgia just overwhelmed Texas the first time. They just. I don't think they were ready for that.
True.
Georgia's defense was all over. I mean, they put Quinn Ewers on the bench, put Arch Manning in there, and then that didn't make it any better.
All fair points.
So you can't do that. Let me tell you, that ain't going to work. So I think you just roll with Quinn Ewers. Although he is hurt, his ankle still hurts. So I would not be shocked if they did exactly what they did the first time if he struggles. Is put him in there. Why not? This is for this is for all the marbles when you get in the playoffs. So expect everything.
Yeah. I think he'll still get his packages like in the red zone. They'll bring him in so he can, they can use his mobility, something that Quinn Ewers doesn't really have a whole lot of.
Yeah. Plus he's hurt, so you don't really want him trying to make a run for the end zone when you can just put Arch Manning in there. But yeah, Saturday potential chaos for everything. So I don't. The worst loss, to be honest, might be if Penn State beats Oregon. Oregon's riding high right now, and the last thing they want is to get beat.
Yeah, I mean, your first loss, that would guarantee Penn State a top four for sure. That would probably move Oregon down somewhere in like
They
I'm
probably
thinking
swap spots.
five. Yeah, they probably just swap spots. That probably moved Texas up to like one. SMU probably end up being like two.
You definitely. I see. Now I see why you want that bye because then you want to see who you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, you get way more time to game plan too. because the two
And
teams
you
that are already.
actually get to watch that game too. You get to
Yeah,
watch, say, for instance, SMU and I don't know, Tennessee play.
yeah.
Like Texas, say Texas wins and they got to play the winner plays Texas. Well, Texas, the players, coaches can watch that game and say, okay, this is what worked for SMU. Say that SMU beats Tennessee. Well, okay,
Mhm.
well, we know what SMU is going to do. They're going to come out and run the ball. We just got to stop that. That's what they did against Tennessee, and that's what they're going to do against us.
Yeah. I
So
mean, even
yeah,
things.
that bye week is going to be crucial because the other team still got to play. I know it's pretty spread out.
It's still extra game though.
It's an extra game though. So while you're sitting at home or wherever you are watching, say God forbid Milrow was to get hurt in the Notre Dame game, that's gonna suck. But that's football. That's how it works. All right, let me ask you this: what if Carson Beck got hurt in the championship game, but they still beat Texas? Or, I mean, say they lost to Texas. Say they lose. Say they lose to Texas. You
Okay.
kick Georgia out because Carson Beck got hurt?
Yeah, they did the same thing last year with Florida State. You're not going to put them in with as a 3-loss team with a hurt quarterback. No,
Well, say Quinn Ewers got hurt. Do you kick Texas out if they get beat?
no, because they have a capable quarterback in Arch Manning. It's a different situation.
Interesting. Just curious how you felt about that. Say, all right, say Dylan Gabriel got hurt and Oregon got beat. Do you keep Oregon in there? It's one. They only got one loss. What do you do
Now
in that situation?
that is a very controversial situation because their backup quarterback hasn't played a whole lot. He has experience because he was a starter last year for the team that he came from, but I don't know about that one. That'd be a very tough situation to look at. I think they still put him in just because it's Oregon. I think they'd be able to be okay with an experienced backup quarterback. It'd be different if he's like a freshman and didn't have any PT. That's a
Well,
different situation.
well, it's hard to say. I don't know.
Nah, because you got to remember for Florida State, their backup quarterback was young and he didn't have any playing experience. Oregon's backup quarterback played a full year as a starter for a different team and transferred to Oregon to be a backup. So completely different situation. I think they still get in, but that's my
Right.
opinion.
I was just curious, like
Yeah.
how you felt about that. That was going to be my question: is if a quarterback got hurt, do you think that they would still put him in?
Yeah.
But that's all I got. That's all I got.
No, that's pretty much all I got too. Yeah, that pretty much concludes this episode of the rankings. Really interested to see what the final one looks like when it's all said and done. Obviously some teams are gonna be upset because they're gonna feel like they got snubbed or left out or whatever, but we'll get to that point when we get to that point. Other than that, nothing really new other than what we've been telling y'all about. So I'm not gonna sound like a broken record and keep talking about it.
Yeah. National Signing Day was today, so you know,
Bama top two
hopefully
class.
whoever y'all wanted to sign to y'all school did. I know LSU. We lost some recruits, transfer portal. People are transferring. It's the end of the year. Um, we lost some people. We signed some people today. Um, like you said, Alabama's always has a good recruiting class. Auburn signed them a really good quarterback today, and
They also
Deuce
have a
Knight.
top five. They also got a top five class.
So it's it's there. Obviously, people are going to transfer. So it is what it is. That's the era that we're in. And we record our reflection thing on Monday. And like you said, we'll drop that probably. We could drop it. We'll talk about it, but I think we could drop it around Christmas, somewhere in there. Probably that we could drop it that week or something like that. But other than that, yeah, that's all I got.
All right, well, that's all for us on this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.